Have you ever experienced this? Your nose is completely blocked. You try to breathe, and nothing works. You change sides, you blow your nose, you even wait, but the congestion stays. What most people don't realize is that a stuffy nose is not caused by mucus alone. It happens because the blood vessels inside your nasal passages swell and restrict airflow. And the surprising truth is this: those blood vessels can be controlled. With the right biological trigger, they can shrink back quickly, sometimes within minutes, allowing air to pass freely again. This is not theory. This is basic human physiology. And once you understand it, relief becomes much easier than you think. Nasal congestion is often misunderstood as a flaw in the body, something that has gone wrong and needs to be shut down as quickly as possible. In reality, a stuffy nose is not a malfunction at all. It is a highly intelligent biological response. The moment your nasal passages feel blocked, your immune system is already at work, responding to what it perceives as a potential threat. That threat could be a virus, bacteria, allergen, pollution, dry air, or even sudden temperature changes. The nose is the front gate of your immune defense, and when it senses danger, it reacts decisively. Inside the nasal lining are tiny blood vessels and immune cells designed to react within seconds. When an irritant enters, these blood vessels expand, increasing blood flow to the area. This is inflammation, and inflammation is not inherently harmful. It is how the body delivers immune cells, antibodies, and protective proteins exactly where they are needed. The swelling that follows is deliberate. By narrowing the airway, the body slows down incoming air, traps particles in mucus, and prevents deeper penetration into the lungs. What feels uncomfortable to you is actually a protective barrier doing its job. Here's the part most people don't realize. Congestion is not caused by excess mucus alone. The primary cause is swollen tissue. Even if mucus production is minimal, inflammation can still close off airflow. That's why blowing your nose repeatedly often brings little relief. The blockage is not something you can force out. It's something the body must calm down from. This changes the entire way we should think about relief. Instead of attacking symptoms aggressively, the smarter approach is to reduce the inflammatory signal. Inflammation is driven by chemical messengers released by immune cells, and these messengers are influenced by stress, breathing patterns, sleep, hydration, and circulation. When the body is under stress, whether emotional or physical, it releases cortisol and adrenaline. While useful in emergencies, these hormones can prolong inflammation when they remain elevated. This is why congestion often feels worse at night or during periods of anxiety. The nose is responding not just to what you inhaled, but to the internal state of your nervous system. Another fascinating detail is that the nasal cycle naturally alternates between nostrils every few hours. One side becomes more congested while the other opens, then they switch. This is normal physiology, not a problem. Inflammation exaggerates this cycle, making one side feel completely blocked. When you understand this, it becomes clear that congestion is dynamic, not fixed. It can change quickly when the underlying signals change. The immune system is deeply responsive to oxygen levels and airflow. When nasal breathing becomes slow and controlled, it sends a message to the brain that the environment is safe. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which directly suppresses inflammatory signaling. Blood vessels begin to relax in a controlled way, swelling decreases, and airflow improves. This is not a placebo effect. It is a measurable shift in physiology. What's truly remarkable is how quickly this process can reverse. Inflammation can build up over hours, yet calm down in minutes when the correct signals are introduced. This is why some people experience sudden relief without medication, seemingly out of nowhere. The immune system has simply received new information and adjusted its response. The nose opens because it no longer needs to defend as aggressively. Seeing congestion as a protective response changes frustration into understanding. Instead of fighting your body, you begin to work with it. Every breath, every shift in circulation, every moment of relaxation influences immune behavior. The nose is not stubborn, it is responsive. When inflammation is reduced, space returns, air flows again, and what felt like an obstacle becomes proof of how precisely your body is designed to protect you. One of the most overlooked truths about nasal congestion is how rapidly tissues inside the nose respond to changes in temperature and blood flow. The lining of the nasal passages is rich with tiny, flexible blood vessels that expand and contract based on the signals they receive. When these vessels are swollen, airflow becomes restricted. When they gently constrict, space opens almost immediately. This is why targeted temperature shifts and circulation changes can bring relief far faster than most people expect. Warmth plays a critical role in this process. When gentle heat is applied to the face and sinus area, it increases local circulation and relaxes surrounding muscles. This warmth signals the body to release tension and improves blood movement through congested tissues. As circulation becomes more efficient, stagnant fluids begin to move. Pressure decreases and the nasal environment becomes less hostile. Many people notice that simply inhaling warm air or using a warm compress creates an initial sense of ease, not because it clears the nose completely, but because it prepares the tissues to respond. What makes this approach powerful is what happens next. When warmth is followed by a brief exposure to cooler air, the blood vessels inside the nasal lining respond by gently constricting. This is a natural protective reflex designed to regulate airflow and preserve heat. As the vessels narrow, swelling reduces, and the airway opens, the shift can happen within moments. It is not forceful, and it does not shock the system. It is a controlled physiological adjustment that the body's designed to make. This response is governed by the autonomic nervous system, the same system that controls heart rate, digestion, and breathing without conscious effort. Temperature-sensitive receptors in the skin and nasal tissues send immediate signals to the brainstem, which then adjusts vascular tone. When this system is guided calmly, the results are often dramatic. The pressure eases. Air moves freely. Breathing becomes quieter and deeper. The change feels almost instant because the system involved works in real time. Circulation is the other half of this equation. Congestion thrives in areas where blood and lymphatic flow become sluggish. Prolonged sitting, poor posture, shallow breathing, and stress all reduce effective circulation to the head and neck. When blood flow slows, inflammatory byproducts accumulate, increasing swelling and discomfort. By encouraging circulation through warmth, gentle movement, and upright posture, the body is given a chance to clear what no longer needs to remain. The nose is particularly sensitive to these changes because it sits at a crossroads of vascular and respiratory pathways. Even small improvements in blood flow can have a noticeable effect on airflow. This is why people often feel relief during a warm shower followed by stepping into cooler air, or after washing the face with warm water and then allowing natural cooling. These everyday experiences are demonstrations of vascular responsiveness at work. What makes this approach especially effective is that it does not suppress the immune response. Instead, it optimizes it. Inflammation is reduced not by blocking chemical signals, but by improving the conditions that caused congestion in the first place. Oxygen delivery improves, tissue stress decreases, and the immune system no longer needs to maintain a defensive posture. Another important aspect is timing. The body responds best when temperature changes are gentle and intentional. Extreme heat or cold can trigger protective tightening that worsens congestion. The goal is balance, not extremes. When applied correctly, the nasal tissues adapt smoothly, creating space rather than resistance. This ability to influence nasal airflow through temperature and circulation highlights how responsive the body truly is. Relief does not always require time or chemicals. Sometimes it requires the right signal delivered in the right way. When circulation improves and vascular tone adjusts, congestion loosens its grip. Breathing becomes effortless again, reminding you that the body already has the tools it needs to restore comfort and balance. Breathing is not just a way to move air in and out of the lungs. It is one of the most powerful regulators of inflammation, circulation, and immune function in the human body. When nasal breathing is slow, controlled, and intentional, it triggers a cascade of physiological responses that directly influence how open or restricted the airways feel. One of the most important elements in this process is a small, often overlooked molecule produced inside the nose itself, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is generated in the nasal passages and released with every slow nasal inhalation. It plays a vital role in regulating blood vessel tone, meaning it helps blood vessels relax in a controlled way. When blood flow is balanced, swollen tissues begin to settle, and airflow improves. This is one reason nasal breathing feels fundamentally different from mouth breathing. Air entering through the nose is not just filtered and warmed. It is chemically enhanced in a way that supports easier breathing. When breathing becomes rapid or shifts to the mouth, nitric oxide production drops significantly. The body loses a natural mechanism that keeps the airways open and resilient. This often leads to a cycle where congestion encourages mouth breathing and mouth breathing worsens congestion. Breaking this cycle does not require force. It requires slowing down the breath and guiding it back through the nose, even if only gently at first. Slow nasal breathing sends immediate signals to the brain through the vagus nerve. This nerve plays a central role in calming the nervous system and reducing inflammatory activity. As the nervous system shifts into a more relaxed state, immune cells reduce. The release of inflammatory chemicals that contribute to swelling. The nasal lining begins to deflate, not because it is being suppressed, but because it no longer needs to stay on high alert. There is also a direct relationship between breathing rhythm and oxygen efficiency. Slow nasal breathing increases the uptake of oxygen into the bloodstream by improving gas exchange in the lungs. This enhanced oxygen delivery helps tissues recover from irritation and reduces the metabolic stress that sustains inflammation. With better oxygenation, the body can resolve congestion rather than maintain it. Another fascinating aspect of nasal breathing is its impact on microbial defense. Nitric oxide has antimicrobial properties, helping neutralize viruses, bacteria before they can travel deeper into the respiratory system. This makes nasal breathing not only a comfort strategy, but also a protective one. When airflow through the nose is restored, the immune system becomes more efficient at managing threats without excessive inflammation. Subtle practices like gentle humming amplify this effect. Humming increases the vibration of air within the nasal cavity, significantly boosting nitric oxide release. This is not a relaxation trick. It is a physiological enhancement of the body's own defense chemistry. Many people notice that even a brief period of humming can change the sensation of pressure and openness in the nose. The response is swift because the mechanism involved operates on a molecular level. Consistency matters more than intensity. Forcing the breath can trigger resistance, while allowing the breath to slow naturally encourages cooperation from the nervous system. Even when congestion is present, breathing softly through the nose trains the airways to reopen. Over time, this reinforces healthier breathing patterns that make future congestion less severe and shorter in duration. What becomes clear is that the nose is not a passive tube waiting to be cleared. It is an active organ that responds to how you breathe. Slow nasal breathing restores chemical balance, improves circulation, calms immune overactivity, and supports natural airway openness. With each controlled breath, the body receives clear instructions on how to regulate itself, often responding faster than expected with a sense of ease and clarity that feels almost immediate. The human body is constantly interpreting signals from its own posture, movement, and sound and these signals quietly shape how the immune system behaves. Nasal congestion is influenced not only by what enters the nose, but by how the body is positioned and how relaxed or tense the nervous system feels. Small physical cues can create surprisingly large internal shifts, often determining whether inflammation stays elevated or begins to settle. Posture is one of the most powerful yet ignored factors. When the head is tilted forward, the neck compressed, and the chest collapsed, blood flow and lymphatic drainage from the head are reduced. This creates a backup effect in the sinus cavities, allowing pressure and swelling to build. In contrast, when the spine is tall and the neck is long, gravity assists drainage instead of resisting it. The tissues surrounding the nasal passages experience less congestion simply because fluids are no longer trapped. The nervous system is highly sensitive to body alignment. Upright posture activates stabilizing muscles and improves communication between the brain and the respiratory system. This encourages slower breathing patterns and reduces sympathetic nervous system dominance, which is closely associated with inflammation. As tension decreases, blood vessels in the nasal lining respond by softening their grip, allowing airflow to increase. Sound plays an unexpected role in this process. Gentle humming or low-frequency vocalization creates vibrations that travel through the facial bones and sinus cavities. These vibrations mechanically stimulate the nasal lining, promoting circulation and improving nitric oxide distribution. This is not about singing or volume, but resonance. Even a soft hum can change the internal environment of the sinuses in ways that support openness and comfort. Movement adds another layer of influence. Stillness, especially when paired with shallow breathing, allows congestion to persist. Gentle motion such as slow neck rotations, shoulder rolls, or light walking encourages blood and lymph flow. This movement helps carry away inflammatory byproducts that contribute to swelling. The effect is subtle but cumulative, often noticeable within minutes as pressure begins to ease. These physical cues also send emotional signals to the brain. A relaxed posture, steady movement, and calm sound communicate safety. When the brain perceives safety, it reduces the release of stress hormones that intensify inflammation. The immune system adjusts its response accordingly, dialing down unnecessary defense and allowing tissues to recover. The sinuses are especially responsive because they are surrounded by bone, muscle, and connective tissue. Any change in tension or vibration affects airflow and drainage. This is why people often notice relief when stretching, changing positions, or even yawning. These actions briefly reset muscular and neural patterns, giving the nasal passages an opportunity to open. What makes these cues so effective is their immediacy. The body does not need time to metabolize anything or absorb compounds. It responds instantly to alignment, motion, and sound. These inputs are interpreted as instructions, and the immune system follows them faithfully. When posture is corrected, movement is introduced, and gentle vibration is added, the body receives a clear message that it can release excess tension. The nasal tissues respond by reducing swelling, improving circulation, and restoring airflow. This cooperative relationship between physical cues and immune behavior highlights how integrated the body truly is. Rather than viewing congestion as something to overpower, these subtle actions demonstrate how easily the system can be guided back into balance. With the right signals delivered through posture, movement, and sound, the body adjusts on its own, often faster than expected, allowing breathing to become smooth and effortless again. Let me close with this thought. Every breath you take is information. When you breathe with awareness, you send a message of safety, balance, and strength to your immune system. And when your immune system feels supported, it responds with clarity, flow, and resilience. Your nose opening is not just about breathing bare. It's about trusting your body's intelligence. And when you do that, healing becomes not only possible but powerful.